Hello everyone and welcome to a mock draft. I know I do a lot of prospect videos, but I want to switch it up. We're the Monday a week after free agency really opened up, and I just wanted to come up with a mock draft that's predictive. This is exactly what I think will happen. I of course will be wrong because my number one rule with mock drafts is I don't do trades. And the reason I don't do trades is because they are so hard to predict, because I can make a case for any team trading down and any team trading up. It just doesn't make sense to me to do it prediction-wise because I don't have all the keys to the tools or whatever you want to call it, because each team values prospects differently. Some guys that some teams will have as a wide receiver 4 will be a wide receiver 2 or 1 on other teams' boards. It's just up and down, and we don't truly know, so I don't do trades in my mock drafts. But like I said, this is predictive, and I'm very excited to start with you, so we're going to start draft. And my first pick, I actually went back and forth in this a bunch. I ended up going with Abdul Carter for the Tennessee Titans, strictly because I had to let my bias sneak in there. Cam Ward, I love as a prospect in this class specifically. Last year's class, I don't know how high I would have had him exactly. Before he entered the transfer portal, I believe he was my 5th quarterback, but he progressed a lot at Miami. And it's very interesting to think, well, how would he be in this year's class? Well, hang on. How would he be in last year's class compared to this year's class? I don't know, but I do know there's talent there. But the Titans, based off their free agency moves and bringing in, I believe they tried to bring in Russell Wilson for a visit. They have talked with veteran quarterbacks. I don't think they're going quarterback here. I think they're going to go Abdul Carter. They're going to take the best player on the board, and they're going to run it back with Will Levis one more year. And if it doesn't work out, they will pick a quarterback next year. I think the coaching staff has job security. I think the GM obviously just got hired there, has job security. So I don't think they have to draft a quarterback to make sure they keep their jobs a year from now. I think they have some security and they can go with the best player on the board and immediately upgrade that defense that the Titans need. An elite pass rusher, and Abdul Carter can transform into that in the NFL, in my opinion. The second pick, again, you can make the case for Cam Ward here. I'm going Travis Hunter, and the reason why, and even though I disagree with the reason why I think the Browns are going to pick him, everything I've read, the Browns love him as a wide receiver. I think Travis Hunter is a better corner than a wide receiver, but he does have very good ball in the air skills. He tracks the ball very well. He can maneuver his body to catch it at the high point. I think he can be a very talented wide receiver. I think he can be an even better cornerback, but based off everything I've read, I know the Browns have been connected. Ooh, Shador. Ooh, Cam Ward. My gut tells me they are going to run it back with their quarterbacks they have right now, because they're trying to bring in a vet too. They just traded for Kenny Pickett. They had Deshaun Watson, and they just had Russell Wilson on a visit. I don't necessarily think this indicates they're going to draft a quarterback. I think they're going to wait till next season, till they can get out of Deshaun Watson's contract fully, to build that team around him instead of just throwing him out there and just getting destroyed behind a bad offensive line. Now, with the third pick, this is Cam Ward. And the reason why I had the Giants going Cam Ward, even though they could still sign Aaron Rodgers, which is very possible, I just think even if you sign Rodgers, he's at most got a year left in the tank, and then he's done. And if the Giants somehow do save their jobs, because they are in job-saving mode 100% in New York, the Giants do save their jobs, they have to save it next year as well. And having Cam Ward, a guy who kind of has a lot of similar arm talent to Aaron Rodgers, just maybe you have more concerns about turnover plays, you have more concerns about how he fills the pocket and all that, but you have a guy who has very similar traits to Aaron Rodgers. Watching Aaron Rodgers play every week would benefit him, and if the Giants don't sign Aaron Rodgers, you need to find a way to save your job. Maybe drafting a quarterback that shows great promise throughout the season can help save your job and give you at least one more year entering the second year with Cam Ward to see if you can make the playoffs and maybe get a contract extension or something along those lines. Now, the New England Patriots, I'm sorry, I know there's a lot of talk. I don't see them going anything other than Will Campbell. This offensive line is still a train wreck, and I know a lot of people have pointed out Will Campbell doesn't have the longest arms, and that's fair. Guess what? The Patriots need help at tackle, guard, center, and also guard, tackle. Every spot on the offensive line. They brought in Morgan Moses, who is very good, but also old. They need to get some youth on that line. They need to just upgrade that line, or else Drake May is going to be picking turf out of his helmet 17 games next year, if he makes it through all of them. Now, at the 5th pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars, this is a pick that I think will be made unless they trade out of it, because I do think this is like the number one spot I can see a trade down at, would be Mason Graham. The Jaguars need some interior defensive line pressure. This is something I noticed a lot last year. They have drafted guys with traits on the defense, but not production. Mason Graham has a lot of production, a lot of traits. Even if it doesn't show on the stat sheet, you can watch those games, and you can watch the interior pressure he put on. He is a monster in that interior D-line and would be a major step forward for the Jacksonville Jaguars defensive line unit. The 6th pick, the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't think it's going to surprise anyone. I have them going Ashton Jeanty. Ashton Jeanty to the Raiders makes all the sense in the world after the Geno Smith trade. Now, for those of you who have listened to me ramble on about running backs, I don't value them as first-round picks. But for the Raiders, it makes sense. They don't have time to develop a quarterback or take a guy that needs to be developed. Pete Carroll is not a young man. Geno Smith, not a young man. You can say, oh, you draft him, you have a guy sit. They're not interested in that. They need to win, and they need to win now. There's not a better win-now prospect in this draft than Ashton Jeanty. And I truly believe Jeanty adds a dimension to the Raiders' offense that can actually make them a really good offense. Geno Smith is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league. He got pressured galore in Seattle. The Raiders probably have a better offensive line than Seahawks. At least I hope they do. Receiver, yes, they do have a need there. Come back round 2, draft a receiver. Build out this offensive line more. You got Brock Bowers, Ashton Jeanty, Jacoby Myers. That's not a bad starting spot for a rebuild. Or as kind of the Raiders have done, just retool and get good fast. The New York Jets. Jets, Jets. This was a pick that I think might be a little controversial. But I had to look at their team, and I had to come to a conclusion on what they need. I think they're going to build out their offensive line. So I went, do they go tackle or guard? Tackle or guard? I went guard, and I went with Tyler Booker at Alabama. Tyler Booker is very interesting because I was so certain he was going to be an NFL stud like a couple weeks ago, and then I started watching it, and I saw how he handled some speed, and it kind of scared me. But he's a big, powerful guy. Where does Aaron Glenn come from? The Detroit Lions. What did they make their names off of? Powerful offensive linemen that move guys off the ball. Tyler Booker can do that. I have concern with him against a speed rusher from the interior, but I think with how the Jets are going to build their team out, they just brought in Justin Fields. They have a really good running back core. I think they're going to be a very run-first team. And being a run-first team, I want interior linemen that can road grade. And Tyler Booker can road grade. Up next would be the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are a team I can see going many directions. I can see them going corner, wide receiver, tight end, edge rusher, offensive line. I think all 5 of those are in play. I went wide receiver with Tatoria McMillan. I think Tet McMillan is a phenomenal player. He's a lot like DK Metcalf, who we just saw got traded for a second-round pick. And you'd be like, well, then why are you taking him at 8? Well, McMillan's not going to cost $30 million a year to start out. But McMillan is a very talented guy. He can take the top off of defense. He's a big physical receiver, and he has some more route running capability than DK Metcalf, in my opinion. I think he was very limited in Arizona offense with Noah Fafita, who, hey, I believe Bryce Young might actually be bigger than Noah Fafita. I just look at how the Panthers are constructed. They need big bodies for Bryce Young to hit. Tet McMillan is a big body. He's fast, has a big catch radius, does all the things you want for a big wide receiver to do, take the top off the defense, can come back on a hitch route. He plays to Bryce Young's strength. So that's why I would take Tet McMillan, and why I think the Panthers will as well. Number 9, again, another team that I can see go across the board, but I just had to go with the guy, in my opinion, this is where a little bias sneaks in on my part, is the best player on the board, and that's Will Johnson. The New Orleans Saints need to keep building out this team. It is not a very good roster. I don't think they're bad enough to be in the arch sweepstakes, but they're not good enough to actually make the playoffs. So I look at them, they just need talent, and talent is Will Johnson. He's a very good cornerback, can do anything, in my opinion, at the cornerback position. He can play inside if you want him to, he can play outside if you want him to. The Saints lost Paulson Adebo. They traded Marcus Lattimore. They have a need at corner, and I think Will Johnson would help them tremendously, especially with a new coaching staff coming in. They're going to want the younger players in. They're going to want to bring in a young cornerback like Will Johnson to help learn, build the defense up. Now, the Chicago Bears. The Bears are a team that, if we're talking about trades, this might sound crazy. I could see them trading up to take Ashton Jeanty. That's one trade I could see happening. But because they don't allow trades, I had to find a player here that fits them. And I went Tyler Warren. And you're probably wondering, well, they need more offensive line help. I do think they need more offensive line help, but they did a good job building out the interior. Drew Dahlman, Joe Thuney, and Jonah Jackson. All guys that are a major improvement for the Chicago Bears, and they could go running back here. It would not shock me if we saw 2 running backs go in the top 10. But I looked at the lines last year, and with what Ben Johnson had in the past 2 years mainly, was a highly athletic tight end that can just go all around the field. That's Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren fits Ben Johnson. He fits the offensive scheme, and he's a big body for Caleb Williams to target. If Caleb's under pressure, what's a great safety valve for any young quarterback? A big body tight end that can go up and make the catch. San Francisco 49ers got rid of a lot of older talent, which is the right move. They need to rebuild their team up, retool more or less. They missed their Super Bowl window. They missed it straight up, but they can build a new one. And something I think is kind of lacking when you look at this team is a pass rusher opposite of Nick Bosa. And I don't know how much they were trying to get Joey Bosa. I saw there wasn't a whole lot, but you never know. I think they go off the board here. And they take an edge rusher, and they take Mike Green out of Marshall. Mike Green is a very talented guy. Had some off-the-field issues, so maybe you have concerns about that. But when he played, he was a beast. He could get after the quarterback, was solid in the run game. And if you're looking to maybe move off Nick Bosa in a couple years, because that seems to be what the 49ers are doing, moving off old players, Mike Green is a guy you can use to kind of make the loss a little less painful. Number 12, the Dallas Cowboys. And man, I can't say I'd be thrilled with this pick, but I've accepted it's happening. Omarion Hampton to the Cowboys at 12. That's another team that could maybe trade up for Ashton Jeanty, which would kind of infuriate me because this Cowboys team needs a lot more help than a running back. But Jerry probably has set his mind to a running back. They're going to draft a running back. I got to accept it, even though I don't think it's the right move for the Cowboys. Omarion Hampton is a very talented guy. I don't think he's a top 2 running back in this class personally, but I know a lot of people do. He can get up and go a bit. He's a big, strong, powerful guy, absorbs contact very well, and is solid in pass pro. It's good stuff. I just don't like the move the Cowboys are going to do, and I'm just anticipating it. At number 13, the Miami Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins went out. They contacted Joey Bosa, which raised my eyebrows because I'm like, man, you have a lot of edge rushers. What are you doing contacting Joey Bosa? Well, apparently, they're not the biggest fan of their edge rushers, and they might be jettisoning some of them out of town here soon. So, I'm going to take the freakishly athletic one, James Pierce Jr. He fits the criteria. Very good edge rusher, can get after the quarterback, and to fit the criteria for a Dolphins draft pick has to be a freakish athletic guy, and that's James Pierce. He is one of the best athletes in this class, probably. He's probably the best edge rusher athlete in this class. Don't get the move for Miami, but they seem to really want to improve their edge rushing room. They have Chop Robinson, who they just drafted last year. I think they go back and get James Pierce Jr., and maybe we see them move off of Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips here sooner rather than later. The Indianapolis Colts, and I could have gone a lot of places. The Colts, I don't really like their team construction, to be completely honest. I think they need a lot of help. I don't like their interior line. Their tight end could use an upgrade. See their needs they have on the screen here by PFF. I think they did a really good job with the needs. Their quarterback room is still not great. I love Anthony Richardson as a Florida Gators fan, but I can't say I think he is the future in Indianapolis. They brought in Daniel Jones. I can't say he is the future in Indianapolis. I just think that the Colts could go to so many spots here, which makes them very interesting. But I have them going with a linebacker. I have them going with Jahad Campbell. The Indianapolis Colts have not had the best linebacker play since Leonard fell off the cliff and then left town. They need to get a linebacker there. This is a draft that doesn't have a whole bunch of elite talent, so you can be like, hey, if we're going to take a linebacker high and early, let's take the best one. Let's take Jihad Campbell right now. Get him in the room. Get him learning with Lou Anaruno, the defensive system. He'll be your green dot here sooner rather than later. He's a very talented guy, can play the run, decent in coverage, something the Colts desperately need in their defense. Now the Atlanta Falcons. This is a team that I could see trading up. With the edge rushers going off the board, they need an edge rusher. Thankfully for them, there is one last guy on the board, and his name is Donovan Ezuraku. Donovan Ezuraku has shot the boards. He is a very talented, very athletic guy who doesn't necessarily beat tackles with traits. He's a technician. When he's playing the position, he knows how to play the run very intelligently. He knows how to get after the quarterback. He has a bunch of hand movements that he can use to fight off tackles. His swipe, his swim, his chop, everything. He has it all. He's a very cerebral player that's very noticeable on the film and would greatly improve the Falcons' defensive line and edge room significantly. The Arizona Cardinals. This is a pick that I think makes a lot of sense with who their head coach is in Jonathan Gannon. I think Kenneth Grant here, because what did the Eagles do for Jonathan Gannon? They got him a freakishly athletic interior defensive lineman. Kenneth Grant is a freakishly athletic interior defensive lineman. I think he can get after the passer. I think he can play the run. He will chase you down. If you're 20 yards down the field, he will be on your back. He is a never say die player, and I love him. And I can't help but think Jonathan Gannon would fall in love with him too. He has a lot of things that Philadelphia worked very well with Gannon, and I can see that transition to Arizona. Arizona needs a lot of help in the interior defensive line, and Kenneth Grant would probably be their day one starter week one. Cincinnati Bengals, they just need defense. I'm going to be straight up honest. I looked at a lot of defenders here, and I scratched my head trying to figure out one. I ended up going with Shamar Stewart. And why I went Shamar Stewart is because I think he's missed last year. I think he's an interior defensive lineman. I think he's a lot of Cam Hayward, and the Bengals could use a Cam Hayward, a guy who can get after the quarterback, has those traits, can play the run very good. And here's something to keep in mind. Texas A&M defensive linemen and edges, they weren't required to go get sacks or go make those flashy plays. Their job was to play the line, win the battle on the line, maybe create pressure, but just control the line of scrimmage. The Bengals could use the pressure and all that, but they just need someone to control the line of scrimmage. Shamar Stewart did that last year, did that very well, and could easily translate that to the NFL when you watch his film. He doesn't have the production you want, but the film makes sense when you have in context with what the Texas A&M defensive coaches wanted them to do, and it's something the Bengals could desperately use. The Seattle Seahawks made a bunch of splashes. They traded Geno Smith. They brought in Sam Darnold. They traded DK Metcalf. They brought in Cooper Kupp. They're up and down. I don't fully know what they're doing, but I do know a pick they are probably going to make, and this is very easy. Armand Membu. In Membu, they have him listed as a tackle. He's a guard. The Seahawks are going to need interior line play to be better for Sam Darnold to succeed. Membu would probably start in there, be a starter day one. I don't think there'd be a question on it if he'd have to win the starting job. He would be one of their better guards. He is very strong, physical, can be good in the run game, has some solid pass pro. I think he'd be an upgrade for the Seahawks in the interior line and would be a great move for Mike McDonald and to just protect Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold does not do well with pressure. Membu in the interior line would greatly improve their offensive line. Bay Buccaneers, I have them taking Colston Loveland. Colston Loveland is just kind of a dream pick for me. I don't really know if this is going to happen, but it's been in my head since I did it in one mock draft, and I can't let it go. He is someone that could open up the offense even more for Baker Mayfield, help out Mike Evans, help out Chris Godwin. It's just another weapon, and I just really would like to see him play with Baker Mayfield, because Baker Mayfield likes his tight ends, and David Njoku, very good tight end. I think Colston Loveland has potential to be better. And Baker did a lot of good things with David Njoku. Give him a guy who might be better, and it might open up the offense even more in Tampa Bay than we have seen the past couple years. Now the Denver Broncos. This was pretty easy, honestly. I have them taking Luther Burden in the third. The Denver Broncos need more receiver help, and they need guys who can just go across the middle. They don't really need the deep options because that's not Bo Nix's strength. Bo Nix's strength is the middle of the field, and inside 20 yards, I would say, is his best strength. Luther Burden is someone who is going to eat up those yards. He's going to be the guy in the middle of the field. He's going to be the guy inside 20 yards. And he has great after-the-catch burst and ability to avoid tackles. He is someone that can help open up the Broncos' offense. He can help get big chunk plays, even on simple slants. He is a move that would greatly improve the Broncos' offense and would help Bo Nix maybe develop more, even though I do think he's very limited, would at least play into his limitations in the best way possible. Pittsburgh Steelers, they're also in the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes. And just like the Giants, I have them taking a quarterback. I have them taking Shedeur Sanders. To my knowledge, Shedeur Sanders is the second best quarterback on the board for a lot of teams. From everything I've read, he seems to be the second choice, which maybe means he won't be here at pick 21, which is very possible. But I look at a lot of the teams picking above them, I don't see them going quarterback. And the Steelers need a quarterback who can at least be accurate, even if they bring in Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, like I said with the Giants, he's not playing more than a year, and if he does try and play more than a year, it's not going to be good football the second year. He didn't look great with the Jets, and I know a lot of people are going to say, well, after he got Davante Adams, yes, after he got Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson, he was a average quarterback. Listen to those out loud. Davante Adams and Garrett Wilson got him to play average football. Not great, average. Which is why I just can't help but think, like, even the teams who are interested in Aaron Rodgers, I don't think they're all in on Aaron Rodgers. And that leads me to thinking quarterbacks are in play for both teams. Shedeur Sanders is someone who does fit the Pittsburgh Steelers draft profile. Is a son of a football player who performed at the NFL level, has some experience, is an accurate guy, can throw the deep ball every now and then. I'm a little concerned with his arm, but he can throw the football deep, and he more or less works in Arthur Smith's offense. Very play action heavy, very middle of the field. That's where Shedeur Sanders really excels at, and it's what Arthur Smith's offense really excels at. He reminds me a lot of Ryan Tannehill, to be completely honest, and Ryan Tannehill is the best quarterback Arthur Smith has worked with. The Los Angeles Chargers, I had them taking Matthew Golden. Matthew Golden, I think, fits Justin Herbert better than the other wide receivers on the board right now because he does have that deep threat appeal. Plus, like, you look at Emeka Egbuka here, who was the other guy I was maybe thinking the Chargers would go. Emeka Egbuka plays a lot like Ladd McConkey. You don't need a second Ladd McConkey. You need someone to take the top off the defense. Someone who does have some route running ability, but mainly is that deep threat and can just go over the middle of the field. That's what Matthew Golden can bring. I think it makes a lot of sense for the Chargers. Maybe he's not the best blocker, which could lead them to not drafting him because the Chargers want blocking wide receivers. But Golden just made a lot of sense to fit in with Justin Herbert, in my opinion. Now, the Green Bay Packers, they need edge help. So I maybe went a little bit off the board here, but I went with Landon Jackson, a highly athletic, traitsy edge rusher that can get after the quarterback. This is a guy that the Packers typically like to draft and like to work with, even if they are very raw, which I think Jackson is a little raw. He needs some work done. Jeff Hafley can work with him. The Packers like these raw edges that they can kind of mold and transform into Green Bay Packers and how they want to play football. It's been their draft history, and I just see that continuing. The Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings brought in two guys at the position I'm going to draft here, but the talent is just there, and I just think the Vikings would just add more to it. I have Walter Nolan going here. Walter Nolan is a guy I really love, and I think he fits the Minnesota Vikings. He can get after the quarterback if needed, but he's a really good run defender. The Vikings have Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargraves. Both are getting up there in age. They just brought in free agency. You have Walter Nolan, who won't be required to play a whole bunch early on, can learn Brian Flores' system, which isn't the easiest thing for some people, and can just be on a rotation, also keeping Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargraves fresher, able to get after the quarterback. You have a three-man rotation. It helps keep guys fresher, and it helps just get after the quarterback, stop the runs, be a more efficient defense. At 25, I had the Houston Texans taking Emeka Egbuka. The Texans, I just have the feeling they're going wide receiver. I know they should take offense line. Trust me, I'm well aware of it. But I just got this feeling they're going to want Emeka Egbuka. Because Emeka Egbuka does a lot of things that works well with C.J. Stroud. He's all over the field. He is not just a deep threat. He is a JSN type guy who can just go anywhere. He makes his money in the route running department, and that's the Texans need at wide receiver. Tank Dell is a very talented guy. He's had 2 bad knee injuries. And you just look at the Texans, they need help at wide receiver, and Emeka Egbuka fits what they need. Angeles Rams, they need a middle linebacker. I'm going to be completely honest. That's what the number one thought came into my head was they need a middle linebacker. And the middle linebacker I chose was Jalen Walker. Why? Because Jalen Walker can do a lot with what Ernest Jones can do. And their defense got worse after they traded Ernest Jones last year. It was really rough to start the season. The young guys started to play better, but it was still a need I noticed, even in the playoffs, that they need that linebacker. The guy who can come up and play the run, who can do all the things you need, who can maybe provide some extra juice and coverage, which I still think Jalen Walker needs to work on a little, but has the tools there. It just makes all the sense in the world because I think they need that run-stopping middle linebacker, and Jalen Walker just does that. Ooh, okay. Baltimore Ravens. Okay, Mykal Williams. The Baltimore Ravens, they're not a team that drafts for need. They draft for the guy that falls into them. To me, that's Mykal Williams. Mykal Williams is an edge rusher that fits Baltimore. He's athletic, can get after the quarterback, can stop the run very good. And that's a key for me when I look at Baltimore Ravens. You can go after the quarterback 100%. They like that. But you need to be able to help in the run game. And I think Mykal Williams can do that at the NFL level. And the Ravens still are working on this defense. It's far from complete. You can say, yeah, they made a big jump the second half of the season last year. Still wasn't all that good in my opinion. I think they got lucky with a schedule that broke their way, and they learned how to play with their tools. But it still is a defense that needs better tools. Mykal Williams is a better tool than with what they had last year. Oh, fuck. Oh, thank Christ, I did not have him. Aziri Thomas, okay. So the Detroit Lions, I just have the feeling they're going to go off the board. And this is not a guy I would have going here. But I think he goes first round. And I just think the Lions are the team. Aziri Thomas, and I apologize if I butcher that name. Thomas is 20 years old still. He's very young. He is a cornerback. The Lions need more cornerback help. They brought in DJ Reed, who I think is very talented. But you can never have too many young corners. And I just watched Thomas. He's physical, can come up and play the run, good in man coverage. He fits Dan Campbell. I think Thomas goes higher than expected. I don't really have the astronomical grade on him, but I could see Thomas going higher than 28. He fits Dan Campbell, like I said, and he's athletic. You have Terrion Arnold, who you drafted last year, and then you can draft a Thomas this year, and just keep on boosting up that secondary, get young pieces in there, and add more depth. The Lions got hit with the injury bug really bad last year. Depth is needed. Even if it's your first-round pick, this is a class that's not loaded with a lot of first-round talent. Getting a depth player that can develop into something one day might be the smart move, and it's something I could see the Lions easily do. The Washington Commanders, I think they don't do much, and they kind of just wait and see who falls in their lap. Malachi Starks is the guy that falls in their lap for me here. Malachi Starks is very Dan Quinn-esque. I don't really see him being the big thumper that can go around and beat people up, but I can see him being a back-end safety that can move around or can come up and play the nickel. He is a rover type guy, something Dan Quinn had great success at with Seattle and Dallas and Atlanta. They have these rover type safeties that can come up, maybe you play them nickel, maybe you drop them back and just roam the back end. They do their strength, and Dan Quinn plays with really well with them, and he can structure a defense around them extremely good. Now, the Buffalo Bills. Another safety in back-to-back picks, and I apologize because I will be butchering his name most likely, and that would be Nick Emorare. As I look for him on here, and I'm just going to go to safety. The Bills need secondary help. They could use a safety with the athletic traits of Emorare. Nick... Again, I apologize, I was going to butcher his name. Nick is someone that they could use in the back end. He is very talented, very traits, he can get around the field. He can come up, he can tackle very well. He is a guy that I could see he can play the nickel, he can play the safety position. He cannot do outside corner. That's the one position in the secondary I don't think he can do. And maybe you argue the Bills should go there instead. But I look at Nick, I look at the traits, and I look at what Sean McDermott can do with guys who have less traits. and how good he makes them. Give him the guy that's traitsy, and see what happens. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs, I have them taking Josh Simmons. And the reason why I have them taking Josh Simmons is because I'm not moved by Jalen Moore. I don't think they think Jalen Moore is the long-term answer. Josh Simmons falls into your lap here. You take him. He is a left tackle that improves your position from last year. Even if you don't want to start him at left tackle, let's say you want to give Moore the shot, I believe he can play guard, and you just trade away Joe Thuney. Josh Simmons is someone I can play tackle and guard at the NFL level. You have a need at both those spots. Take him and figure out which position he will do better at. Last but not least, the defending Super Bowl champion, the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles just know what they want. They like traitsy guys who can get after the quarterback in the interior D line. And in a low defensive line class, let's see, they just lost Milton Williams. Yeah, let's draft another one. And this is a guy I'm ridiculously high on. TJ Sanders out of South Carolina. TJ Sanders, I believe, can get after the quarterback. He can do all the things you want an interior defensive lineman. He can get after the quarterback. He can stop the run. He fights and controls the line of scrimmage. TJ Sanders just makes so much sense to the Eagles. And I am going to hate it when they pick him because I'm going to scream, of course, the Eagles got the guy I think can actually transform into a top-end interior defensive lineman in the league. Mason Graham's the other guy I think can do that. TJ Sanders is right behind them in my personal grade. And TJ Sanders is a monster and would boost the Philadelphia Eagles defensive line even more than it is now. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked this mock draft, please hit that like button. If you liked any of the picks or you disliked them, go down in the comment section. I would love to hear everyone's thoughts. Remember, this was a predictive mock draft. This is not what I would do. This mock would look completely different if I was a GM picking where I think these guys should actually go instead of where they will go. And hey, if you want more NFL draft content, you want some prospect videos, there's a playlist on the screen right there. There's a most recent upload right there. Thank you very much for watching and have a great day.